Hey TV fans, I hope you're all doing well. This is going to be my thoughts on the first episode of the new BBC drama. It's called Vigil and it's just episode 1 because they don't tend to give titles for episodes on the BBC. So this is the new one from the guys behind Line of Duties. It's been quite heavily hyped since the end of Line of Duty, which by the way I covered the final season, so you can find those reviews on the channel. So it's a very similar setup actually, it's just that it's sort of set in a different world. It's set in the world of the Navy and kind of has the similar feel where there's sort of potentially a conspiracy going on behind the scenes. So it stars Suranne Jones, who people know from things like Dr. Foster, Scott and Bailey, various things. Really great television actress. I think one good way to describe her is that she's almost like the Jodie Foster of TV. I think she just has that real knack for playing very grounded, down-to-earth, gritty characters, but also she has that kind of charisma and look about her as well, so she gets a good sort of balance, and I think just has a very like Jodie Foster like persona in many ways, which we really see in this role. So yeah, I think that's sort of a good way to describe her, and it's almost that thing of like she's very attractive but she's very good at hiding that or just coming across as like a regular type person, and she's very much in her element in this role. So she plays DCI Amy Silver, well, the setup for the episode is that she's called in to investigate a mysterious death on board a submarine, which is like the Vigil of the title. So we open with that, where they get contact from another submarine, which we see is sinking, is being attacked in the waters, but which the decision is made by the captain, played by Patterson Joseph, who people know from Peep Show, Noughts and Crosses, various other things, not to interfere, not to help the other submarine. And we later find out that, at least according to what he's saying, then the decision was taken because they're at war, or you know, just coming up might leave them open for an attack themselves. So that's his justification. So you have this other character played by Martin Compenson of Line of Duty fame, who is really desperate for them to save the other submarine, and he's kind of taken away because he's disagreeing with the decision, and then he mysteriously ends up dead. It appears to be of an overdose, but they call in the Suranne Jones character to investigate. She's also helped out by a character played by Rose Leslie of Game of Thrones and the Good Fight fame. So there's a fellow detective helping her out, helping Amy out. Although the Rose Leslie character does her work sort of from the sidelines, if you like, from the office, from the station, whereas Amy actually goes on board, and that's the whole thing. But the setup is then there seems to be some dodgy circumstances around his death, and that there might be a cover-up from the Navy, who obviously don't want negative attention. So you can see how it's a very similar type setup to Line of Duty. So at one point, Amy, when she's looking at the body and asking around, she discovers that there's like bruises on the body, which wouldn't be consistent if he just had an overdose. She finds out that then the type of drug he supposedly took is more you sort of use for cooking than for shooting up. Basically, that's another factor. And later on, Amy also finds out that he was seen off duty not in a certain spot, not too long before he was killed. So there's sort of question marks there as well. So it becomes a whole thing, and we see the Navy kind of wanting to shut her down pretty much, or not wanting her. There's also them having their own medical expert on the scene, and I think we're meant to assume that's part of maybe the cover-up, because it appears as though that person will just stick to the line and say, yeah, it was an overdose, nothing more suspicious than that. And by the end, we get this sort of term with this protester who we see at one point, who's like protesting the Navy. There's quite an amusing scene where she like jumps in front of the car when Amy's driving towards the naval base, and she's later arrested. And the big sort of cliff or turn at the end of the episode is that they find a photo of the Martin Camperson character on her, and it turns out, according to her, they were in a relationship, and she kind of gives credence to this idea that, yeah, the Navy are like corrupt, or they're covering things up, and says that he wasn't actually a drug taker. So that kind of implies that they may have even been planted just to make this look like he'd taken a drug overdose. So we do get a good hook at the end, a good sort of cliffhanger, and I was sort of into seeing the next episode after that. So overall, it's hit and miss for me, the first episode. There's some things about it that I did find quite bland, and I think some of them are typical BBC drama type things. So for example, I think because it's set in the world of submarines, and you kind of have this sort of action feel to some of the moments, that's a bit of a problem, because the BBC budget doesn't really extend to that, making those look convincing. Obviously, if this was on like a network, a bigger network, or a streaming type thing, those scenes would have the money to look convincing. As it was, like with the opening, I just thought it looked a bit generic and typical, and didn't really convince me that these were like real sort of action scenes involving a submarine. The other main problem is, I just think kind of the characters at times and the way they're talking and the interactions were just a little bit bland. There's just this sense of, you know, kind of people talking in rooms, and this typical kind of British stiff lip type dialogue, which I don't find that engaging, unless it's kind of, you know, done in a pantomime sort of way and is made quite entertaining. But there was just some typical BBC style problems that just isn't for me. I mean, other people might like them. I think when it comes to people talking in rooms, obviously, unless you're Aaron Sorkin or someone like that, you're going to struggle to make it that interesting. Obviously, the cast are good. I like Rose Leslie. Obviously, you've got a good lead in Soraya Jones and some good supporting players. So there's definitely promise, by the ending especially. It's obviously maybe a genre thing. I mean, maybe I'm not into submarine things that much, but obviously they're going to follow a very similar formula to Line of Duty. So I guess if the writings is there and they can obviously make it compelling the way they did Line of Duty, then I'm sort of on board for it. Also, there was a weird direction style at points. It was like there's a scene where you have the Rose Leslie character in a car with Amy when they're sort of driving to the base, and for some reason it really cuts around them. Like, there's a lot of shots from behind the seat, and you very rarely see, well, certainly the Rose Leslie character's face, and I just thought that was weird. I mean, is it the sort of scene that really requires that kind of direction? If it was like an interview scene or something like that, then maybe, but that was a little strange. But That's pretty much my thoughts. It was a good hook at the end. Obviously, I really like Soraya Jones. And it was certainly solid, but just one or two generic type problems. We'll see. I'm going to watch episode 2. The first 2 episodes are on BBC iPlayer. And I think I'll probably stick it out, unless it turns out like really bad. But at the moment, there's enough of a hook to keep me interested. And it's obviously from the Line of Duty people. So that is Vigil episode 1. If you've seen it, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. You can also share me out on social media and also ding the bell on YouTube, because that will help to get notifications for when I go live with a video. And just to promote something else I'm doing TV wise at the moment, couple of other things, couple of different things. One is the new Stars Play show, that is Heels, set in the world of independent wrestling. I've done 2 episodes of that. You can expect episode 3 soon. And another thing I'm doing is the big, almost teen hit of the summer, which is Cruel Intentions, which is on Amazon Prime if you're in the UK. I've done 8 of the 10 episodes with that, so I'll catch up with the final 2 later or soon. So check out my thoughts of Cruel. I said Cruel Intentions, didn't I? I'm always doing that. Cruel Summer, I meant to say. Thanks for listening, guys. See you again soon.